Cool. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second chapter of the online marketing course put on here by the Small Business Development Center, the Idaho Innovation Center, in conjunction with the Greater Idaho Falls Chamber of Commerce and Vulpine Marketing. I'm here, I'm your instructor. My name is Ryan Jose. I'm the owner and founder of Vulpine Marketing, as you guys know from attending last week. So, hope you guys had a great time kind of working on your messaging. If you guys weren't able to get it finished by the end of the course last time, I hope that you guys had a chance to be able to kind of take some of the tools, some of the strategies that we talked about as far as kind of just trying to nail your digital marketing messaging and are incorporating that into your company and kind of what you guys are doing. So, if you guys have any questions at any point, feel free to pop them into the comments and we'll try to stay on top of those if they ever do come in. The team here at Andex has been fantastic, and so we'll try to do our best to answer those questions as they come in. I have had the privilege and the opportunity to be able to sit down with several people from this group and be able to spend some one-on-one time with them, kind of discussing kind of their individual needs and kind of what they're working on. So I had a chance to chat individually with Tanyan and just a handful of kind of the other members of the course there. So if that's something that you guys are interested in doing, please feel free to reach out to me. Let's schedule a time that we can sit down and we can actually talk about whatever you're up against, and we can try to put together kind of a custom strategy to be able to help you move forward. So today we're going to be talking about getting found in Google. As so many people know, like Google is an incredibly important aspect of just being able to get your brand out there and just being able to get found, right? So it's super important that, you know, as you are operating a business and you're trying to gain clients, that you're being found and then you're being chosen, of course. And so in this course, we're going to be talking a lot about the getting found in Google portion. Now, Google is a fantastic tool, and it can be used in a variety of different ways. Today we're going to be talking about like the actual like search engine aspect of Google, but there is, of course, also there's Gmail, there's kind of in the ads that you can put in there, there's YouTube ads, there's Google display ads, there's a variety of things that you wouldn't necessarily associate directly with Google that are at your disposal that you can use and utilize to be able to help get your brand found. Now, so what we're going to be talking about today is really just, as I said before, kind of the search engine portion of Google. So when people are interested in a particular type of service, they go there. They use Google to be able to do that. That's super common. And this is really not odd, right? This is not unusual. The tactics have just kind of changed. Years ago, there were these things called phone books. Some of you might be familiar with them. And what they were used for is, of course, they were a directory for people to be able to find businesses of whatever nature they needed for the services that they were requiring at that time. So what people would do is they'd open up the phone book, they'd look at the particular type of industry that they're looking for, so say a plumber, and then they look at one of the top ones and they select it, right? That was kind of the process during the early 1990s of how you found a plumber, of how you found an electrician, of how you found whatever, right? So what happened was people wanted to be at the top of that directory section. So what you found is, people with the name of Aaron, they're like, oh, sweet, Aaron's plumbing, right? And that was so awesome because they're named Aaron, they're at the top of that plumbing section. So a lot of times they were selected first. So what you found after that is a lot of people decided to name their businesses like AAA plumbing and stuff like that because alphabetically it would be one of the highest things in there. So people were gaming the system. And that's kind of what they were doing using Yellow Pages. And now we can kind of do a very, very similar thing using Google, right? There's ways that we can be able to get found at the top of that section when people are looking for a particular type of service. And that's what we're going to be talking about a lot today. So just a little bit of information here. So this is the Google search page result is what this is called, or SERP, S-E-R-P. And so what you can kind of see here is, well, if you search physical therapy, well, we have that top section up there, and it literally says ad right next to those listings, right? So you have that ad. It's called the paid section or Google Ads section. Then you have the maps or the local section, right? And this is particularly important for, you know, well, geez, anyone who's servicing like a local area, this is an important place to be. This is really valuable for my good friends Bryce and Tanyan and restaurant owners and these different types of businesses that kind of service this area. Myself, physical therapists, chiropractors, you name it, all really, really important. This section here, and I only have a snippet of it, this is called the organic section, right? And this obviously goes down significantly longer. There's like 10 or 8 places in there for these different organic search results that you can be found in, right? So the way that we get in these places, that top section up there, that's Google Ads, right? And the way that it operates is you pay to be there, right? So you literally say, all right, Google, if someone searches physical therapy in this area, I want to be there, here's my credit card, right? And that's kind of the process that goes into that. And based on kind of the competition that is in there for that particular type of keyword and the other competitors that might be bidding on that particular phrase as well, will depend on how expensive it is to be able to be there. And you get charged as people click on those particular ads. It's called pay-per-click advertising is another term for it. So, you know, for example, like a lawyer, really, really expensive to be there. It's just one of the most competitive industries really in the world. To be able to have your business listed there and to have someone click it, depending on the type of law, could be around like $100 just to have someone click on that particular one. That doesn't even necessarily mean that they go on and they become a client. They just literally came to your website and may have immediately left. So for that purpose, you know, we are going to be talking about Google Ads because there is a number of really, really big advantages to it and opportunities, but we are going to focus pretty heavily on SEO. And the reason we're doing that is because the minute you stop paying Google, you're done. That strategy is over, right? So as long as you want to bid on Realtor, fantastic, then you can be found. But the minute you decide you are going to stop paying Google, any benefit that you may have had from being there is absolutely lost. SEO, or search engine optimization is what it's called, kind of the art of being able to be in those sections that we have up here, right? That map section or that organic section. It can return and return and return, and for so many of my clients it does. So the analogy that I kind of use between these different strategies is paid advertising is like day trading, right? Like there's so much risk, there's so much return, the money's just gone sometimes, right? SEO and investing there and being able to be found on a continual basis in organic search results is like 401k, right? It just has the ability to return and return and return. And that's why in my particular company and for a lot of different companies that I work with, that's why we invest so heavily there as opposed to ads. But we're going to be covering both because, you know, there's no such thing as like a one-size-fits-all strategy. Different industries and stuff like that have a lot of different opportunities. So this section here is particularly important. The reason it's so important is because, you know, with my clients that I've had in the past that have call tracking, right? So we can actually say, where did they see this phone number and where did they call it? So we would often have unique phone numbers that are for these sections right here. And there's ways to get that set up. If that's something you're interested in, let me know. We can make it happen for you. But what I found is 50 to 75% of the first-time callers came from that phone number that they found there. That's huge, right? So being positioned in there is really, really important. And then, you know, being listed below there in that kind of organic search results section, that's obviously important too, but that map section is gold. So we're going to be talking about this, right? We're also going to be talking about the section below because the principles are often the same. And if you're doing well in one section of trying to get found in the organic search results, and you'll probably be there in the map section as well, depending on a couple different factors that we're going to be discussing. So here's kind of all the factors that Google takes into consideration when it comes to where you're going to perform in Google. And here I kind of have them broken out into a bit of a pie chart here. Some of this is a little opinion based, so forgive me. But a lot of the information here is based off of a number of studies that have been done by other people in my industry. So here's kind of all the different categories that we have here. We have citation signals, Google My Business signals. review signals, website signals, and link signals. And here's kind of a little bit more of a detailed breakdown of kind of what I mean by all these. And of course, all this information is going to be at your disposal, so don't feel like you have to write this all down right now unless you absolutely want to. But here's kind of these different, I'll call them pillars or different categories of signals that Google takes into consideration. So the first thing that we need to be doing, right, is if we want to be found in Google, what we need to do is we have to have a pretty firm understanding of what we're aiming for. What are we trying to be found in Google for, right? You like that one, Alan? So what you can see here is like if you don't really know what you're going for and you just have a website and it's not really aimed at any particular keyword whatsoever, then chances are you're going to miss, right? Or you might hit something completely on accident, right? So there's both of those things you need to be considering. But as far as like looking down the barrel of a gun, really trying to aim and really trying to determine what keywords are going to be a great opportunity for my business, right? And here's something to take into consideration. So this is called long tail keywords. So what happens is like if we have like a single word, right? Chances are there's a lot of people that are also trying to perform for that single word in Google. So there might be a lot of volume, so people are searching that term for a lot, but there's a lot of competition because other people are already doing that, right? So if we get a little bit more specific in what we're searching for, then there increases the likelihood that we can perform in Google for that keyword because there's going to be a little less competition. And we can try to create a resource that's a little bit more specific to whatever that search term is. But then also, like, there's going to be a little less volume, but there's a lot more commercial intent behind that keyword, right? So people, like, if this is so specific, like, they know what they're looking for. And what I found in Google and also in Amazon is that, like, the terms that are more likely to convert often have, and by convert, I mean, like, lead to a sale, they have, like, 4 to 5 words in them. Like, so they're really long. So people don't go to Amazon and they're looking for a type of shoe. They don't just put shoe in there. That's not how people who are actually looking for something generally behave. And why not? Because, well, geez, what do you mean? Do you mean men's shoes? Do you mean women's shoes? Do you mean blue shoes? Do you mean red shoes? I mean, there's so much opportunity there. There's so much variable that Google or Amazon or any other search engine can't really deliver to that person a search result that's like actually qualified or actually meaningful to what that person is looking for. So just to kind of illustrate this point a little bit further, this is a screenshot from one of my favorite SEO tools called Ahrefs. And as you can see here, this is a little bit of data for the particular search term shoes. So if someone was to try to perform, and by perform I mean like be on the first page of Google, this tool will actually give you an estimation of how difficult that would be. So on a scale of 0 to 100, 100 being high, they say being able to perform for shoes is 92. That's really, really difficult. I can positively say that I think if you were to try to perform on the first page of Google for shoes, that it would literally cost you millions of dollars to try to do that. It would be so difficult. But hey, you can say, well, there's 470,000 monthly searches for that particular keyword. So that's gold, right? So yeah, if you can get there, then maybe you'd be set. But the opportunity and the likelihood of that happening, it would be very, very challenging. So if you want to get a little bit more specific, right? Now let's say you have this particular product. You have blue shoes with ankle straps. Whatever that is, you're the business owner, yeah, right? You're the shoemaker. You tell me what kind of shoes these are. Whatever that is, like the keyword difficulty to be able to perform on the first page of Google is 0 out of 100, right? This is pretty easy. You should be able to get there. Sure, the monthly volume, the monthly estimated volume, according to this tool, which it's not perfect, but pretty good, they estimate there's about 20 people who search that every month. Now let's say that is just a gold product for you, right? You make a lot of money selling these blue shoes with ankle straps. Well, that's in your favor. That's in your best interest to be positioned for that particular keyword because this person searching that, they know what the hell they want, right? Like they know very, very specifically what they're looking for and they've told Google that, right? So your opportunity to be able to deliver specifically what that individual is looking for increases a lot. So, exercise. I like switching slides, and I always check Alan's reaction to see what he thinks about the gifts here. But what I would like you guys to do is actually list what you would want people to search to be able to find you. Whatever your service, whatever your product is, take a couple minutes here and let's go ahead and let's write those down. Cool. Welcome back, everybody. Sorry, I forgot my little clicker thing. That's my bad, Alan. So let's see. I have everybody's face here. Steve, it's good to have you. I don't know if I met you last time, so I might take a minute here, not too long, and let you introduce yourself. But first off, I hope this exercise was good. So are there some people, hey there Maria, good to see you. Are there some people who would be willing to kind of share, as far as, let's see, I'll go ahead and I'll pick some people. Would they mind sharing kind of what they have kind of identified as the things that they'd want people to search in Google to be able to find them? And let's start with Tanyan, would you be willing to share? And then let's have Zoe, if you'd be willing to share after her. And let's see here. And then let's go Susan after that. We'll go you three. Tanyan, Zoe, and then Susan. If you're willing, of course.
Okay, so where I'm a realtor, I just put in homes for sale in Bonneville County.
Good. That's really, really good. Let's see. Zoe.
Yeah, so I did lashes, lash extensions near me, or lash artists, or best lash extensions near me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's perfect. Susan? Oh, sorry, Susan, can't hear you. Nope.
There we go.
There we go. We got it.
Okay, women's image, a women's life balance, life plans, women's blueprint, life blueprint.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you, Susan. Appreciate it. Yeah, so I mean, these are all really, really good ways that people, might be able to search in Google. Let's see here. Steve, would you mind just taking a minute to introduce yourself here to the rest of the class? Just who you are and what company you work for?
Yes, my name is Steve Penther. I'm a mediator. By trade, I was a building contractor for 40 years, but I want to now mediate construction disputes and elder mediation. I've got experience in that, and I want to do that in my golden years, I guess. But the keywords I came up with was elder mediation, Eastern Idaho, and then construction mediation, Eastern Idaho. Those two phrases, I guess you call it a long tail keywords. That's what those two.
Yep. Well, awesome. Well, good to have you here in the course. I appreciate the chance to be able to chat with you. If you haven't already, we do have our recordings from the last class. If you haven't had a chance to watch them, we'll make sure that you get a hold of them there. But good to have you here. That was gold. That was perfect. That was exactly what we're looking for. Let's go ahead and let's go back to the presentation here. So, one of the important things that we need to do, and it sounds like everybody did a really good job of this, but one of the important things to kind of keep in mind as we do this is like make sure that we're thinking like our consumer. We really take the time to kind of get inside their heads and kind of think about the way that they would search in Google, because it's so easy when we're close to our product to kind of think like, okay, well, I'm going to use these terms because they're kind of industry related, right? Memory care. So, one of my clients is an assisted living facility, a chain of them here in Idaho all the way down to Utah. And, they do offer memory care. Now, what is that? Well, it's assisted living, but it's in particular for people who struggle with like dementia or Alzheimer's or different things like that kind of need kind of an extra level of care and attention and like kind of proper access to certain types of therapy and different things like that and cognitive stimulation and stuff like that, right? But the thing is, like, so if they're like, oh, well, we have some room, we have some opportunities, we need to kind of fill some of these spots in our facility with people who need memory care, the issue is that people don't really search that, right? People don't search premises liability attorney unless they are probably an attorney or maybe they're a savvy business owner and stuff like that, enough or something like that. But the general public, they're not going to use these particular types of terms to be able to look for what they're looking for, right? So for the memory care one, like, well, we just need to go for assisted living, and then hopefully we can kind of attract some people who are in need of certain types of memory care services. Premises liability, well, what people actually search in Google for that particular one is a slip and fall attorney. That's way more common. Premises liability would be probably a waste. For the people who are searching that are not the kind of the layman people. Residential habilitation, this is another jargon one. Guardianship and conservator services. Some of these services are so specialized that maybe Google really isn't the best opportunity for these because there's a bit of education that needs to go into what these particular types of services are, right? So those are all kind of things you need to ask yourself is like, how can I search the way that my users will actually search? And is really Google a great fit for this, or is there more education that needs to take place before they'd be interested in your services? And if that's the case, maybe Facebook ads, maybe YouTube ads, maybe other platforms would be a bit more advantageous, which YouTube is considered under the Google umbrella, but I really consider it more of kind of social media advertising. So, here's some kind of good examples. Once again, kind of going heavy in the law field, car accident lawyer, injury lawyer. Like the term is personal injury attorney, but people don't really search personal injury. But injury lawyer, accident lawyer, car accident lawyer, insurance lawyer, those are the terms that they use, right? Drug possession lawyer, that one's pretty straightforward. DUI lawyer, all those kind of things are pretty straightforward, right? So that's the kind of thought process I recommend. And then, of course, what I recommend is being exhaustive. And the reason that I say this is like, list out what you do. And the reason that this has worked out in particular, one second, I'll get to that, is like it's just good to list out everything that you could possibly want. I think I said time your hair. I actually don't need that, so I apologize. Like the reason this is advantageous is because you need to add kind of what you do and then also the area that you serve if there's a particular area that you serve, right? So Idaho Falls web design, Idaho Falls marketing company, Pocatello assisted living, like these are all examples, and it sounds like a lot of people were saying like East Idaho and stuff like that kind of in their thing. So that's pretty awesome. And the reason that's important is, well, web design in general, if I was trying to target that, like that would be pretty challenging, right? 68 out of 100. But Idaho Falls web design, 14 out of 100. Significantly more doable. I don't think I'll ever rank for web design for my particular website, and that's not really what I'm going for. That'd be fantastic if I could, but it'd be so challenging. But the reason I say to be exhaustive in the way that you try to list out what kind of services you provide is like, here's a great example. So one of my clients was a big law firm in Toledo, Ohio, and they offered pretty much everything under the umbrella for law. One of the services that they did is record cleansing, or what's called expungement. So let's say you had a crazy time in college, you have some some things on your record that you want removed. Well, an expungement lawyer is someone who can kind of help you get that taken off your record. So that could help you with employment opportunities and a variety of other things. The thing is, like, almost every lawyer does this. And because almost every lawyer does it, no one wrote about it on their website. No one said that they did it. But like, expungement is like something that's not particularly difficult or time or resource heavy for attorneys. It takes them like half an hour, but they can easily charge $300, $500 to be able to get it done for people, right? And the thing that's even easier about it is you can hand it off to like the second string of the JV squad to get it done, right? So for my particular client, who owned this big law firm, this was a really, really big opportunity to be well positioned for Toledo expungement lawyer. And it was an opportunity that others had completely overlooked, but was a huge moneymaker for them. So some of the other things that we're going to be talking about, like, okay, now that we know exactly what we're going for, we know the keywords that are going to be helpful to us. One of the most important things you can do, once again, kind of going back, is make sure you add that geo modifier or that location, Idaho Falls web design, Minneapolis pest control, whatever that is. Create content to be able to go to go after those terms. Now, if you service a lot of areas, my recommendation would be, that you add a page for whatever that service is and a page to kind of target that location, right? So if you're an attorney, right, I'll just continue with that. If you're an attorney that services Rigby, Idaho Falls, and Rexburg, right, we'll say that, and you do, DUI defense, right, or something of that nature, I would recommend you write a page for Rexburg DUI lawyer, Rigby DUI lawyer, although they drive like they're intoxicated, doesn't necessarily mean they are. Idaho Falls DUI lawyer. I would recommend writing a page per location and per service that you do. If you service an area like an attorney or a pest control company, or even like a web designer does, right? That's what I recommend doing. So some of the things that they take into consideration, right? So we know what we're going to be targeting. These are kind of all the things that we need to work on as far as to be able to perform in Google. And here's kind of all the factors that Google takes into consideration as far as what's on your website and if you're going to be able to show up in Google for that. So this portion is called on-site optimization. We know what we want to go for. Now, how do we do that? So here's kind of a case study. Here's an example. This one's pretty specific, right? Conference room audio visual. Now, this isn't a particular one that I was like, oh, let's go after Idaho conference room audio visual systems or something like that, right? For this particular client that I'm going to be talking about. And the reason I didn't do that is because what we found is that the competition was relatively low for this particular keyword. Like the keyword difficulty to be able to perform for this keyword, even without that geo modifier, without that location, was pretty good. Like I felt like there was a lot of opportunity to be able to perform there. So here's kind of a variety of the different keywords that they could perform for this particular client. And they reached out to me because like there was this other company, right? I'll call them the bad guys. They were performing for this particular type of keyword, and they were like, we don't even know what Neuralink's doing. They're so good. Like they're sending these conference room audio visual systems all over the entire United States. We offer the same product, but we don't do that, right? We don't ship our products all over the nation. We don't get them installed, in Mississippi, even though we're located here in Idaho. But these guys are. Why is that? So, using Ahrefs, it's a tool that I mentioned earlier, and I think let's see. Zoe, not Haley, Zoe had a question about the tool that I mentioned before. It's called Ahrefs, Ahrefs.com. It's my favorite SEO tool because it can give you so much data. In this particular one, what I did was I popped Neuralink's website, so their competitor's website, into this tool, and it gave me a helpful list of all the keywords that their competitor was currently performing for in Google. And what I found is that there were like these kind of groups of keywords that Neuralink was performing in Google for that other people weren't. And that is what was working for them. That is what was bringing all that traffic into them, was this particular set of keywords, right? So they said, well, we want that, right? That is absolutely something that we do. It's absolutely something that we can do all across the nation, but we're just currently not. So the game plan, right? We kind of looked into what was Neuralink doing? Why were they ranked #1 in Google for like conference room audiovisual or conference room audiovisual systems or something of that nature? Why? So if you look at this particular page, this is on their website there, there's a number of things that they're doing really, really well as far as Google's concerned. Like the content that's on this page, and by content I mean like the actual stuff that's on there, was really long. It's like I think it's like 1,700 words that were on this particular page, right? So if Google is trying to decide, well, what resource serves this really well, right? I have this particular search term that I search in Google. Google is going to try to provide me the best resource in their mind. One of the things that they're going to consider is the length of the page. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that the longest page is always going to perform the best. In fact, there's many cases that that's not the case, but that could be something that you could shoot for. If you're trying to make the best resource, the longest one might be it. So they have 1,000 words of content on this particular topic. And what they did is they kind of broke it up. Like they have like the header here, right? So they have keywords that are in this title. So this particular page is talking about audiovisual components for your conference room, right? Those keywords are in there, right? And then the rest of it is just kind of talking about certain components or certain parts of what this audiovisual system looks like, right? So the paragraphs there are fairly long. You can kind of see these different sections here, you know, audio or video conferencing. And then they have probably 200, 300 words on that particular section. So they have a lot of content really, really well written to target this particular term. So to be able to kind of get that keyword up there, right, this is kind of what I'm talking about, keywords in the header of a page. In the header, there's actually like an HTML, and HTML is like what every website is made of, essentially. And that HTML element is what's called an H1, and it looks like this in the code of a website. You don't see this on the front end of a website, but in the back end, this is what it looks like. That header is, you can kind of see these little brackets that they have there, right? So brackets, H1, and then kind of that closing one that has that little backslash that says, okay, this element is done. The actual code of this page is whatever your keyword is. Whatever keyword you're trying to perform in Google for, add that term in there. So if it's Idaho Falls Realtor, Idaho Falls Esthetician, Idaho Falls Web Designer, those keywords should be in that H1, right? That you're just telling Google, this is what this page is all about. This is the main topic of this particular page. If you guys have any questions, feel free to hop in the chat there. And then kind of the other section of it is that they have the keywords in the actual URL or that web address of that particular page, right? So you can see there, audiovisual components for your conference room, pretty good URL that has the keywords in there. We are telling Google what this page is about, right? So here's an example. Yourwebsite.com/keyword, right? Or volpinemarketing.com/Idaho Falls web design. I'm telling Google exactly what this particular page is about. Also, kind of throughout that page, we have the keywords in that content, right? So not only is it in kind of the headers or kind of those main kind of sections to kind of break up the content, but it's also used throughout there. On this particular page, the words conference room is used like 43 times or something like that. Like Google has a fairly good understanding of like what this content is all about. Now, it used to be the way that you'd be able to perform in Google before they, got a little bit smarter than they are, is the only thing Google would use to kind of gauge how good of a resource this was is how often that particular keyword was used in the content. So if you wanted to rank in Google for Lindsay Lohan, for example, the only thing you needed to do was write Lindsay Lohan 1,000 times in your content. And so what you'd often end up with is content that was written like, Lindsay Lohan didn't like jail. Lindsay Lohan had a hard time in jail. So she, and it would just use her name 1,000 times, right? And that is what was working at that point. Well, Google has since gotten smarter, and they've been able to kind of filter out those results or those pages that are written poorly in their mind. Like, we know what you're doing. You're just spamming. You're just stuffing the keywords in there. And that's what the practice is called, is keyword stuffing. So you want to have the content that you're writing in the page, but not overdo it. Don't be crazy. Write for a person. Don't write for a robot, right? And this content, by the way, is 1,700 words. So 43 of them being conference room, that's not really a huge percentage of the overall content of the page, right? So be cognizant of that as you're trying to create content here. They also have images. I mean, all throughout here, they probably have 10, 15 images on this particular page. Also, what they're doing, not only do they have images that are related to the content, but in the code, once again, kind of going back to the coding element of websites, you can actually tell Google, this is what this image is all about. And the way that you do that is by adding the keyword into what's called an alt tag, or an alternative description tag, I think is the full name for it. So in this alt tag, you can see they have video conferencing conference room, displays conference room AV, microphone conference room AV. Like, these are all the images, and here's kind of some of the descriptions that they've added in there. Google can say, okay, well, this image must be about this particular topic, right? And that's all helpful to the overall goal. So this is kind of what it looks like. This is what the HTML of that image would look like. Image source is kind of what that code up there, img src equals, and then whatever the URL for that image is, alternative tag or alt tag, your keyword, right? Does that make sense? So it'd have Idaho Falls web designer, web design example, or something like that in that alt tag, if that's what I was trying to go for. So my client wanted to take this opportunity. They wanted to perform in Google for this particular keyword. We wanted to go and straight up steal it from this competitor. So we've made a page to be able to do that. And as you can kind of see here, like we're doing all these things I'm talking about. We have the keyword in the H1, conference room audiovisual systems. We have 1,000+ words of content. In the best case scenario, if I'm trying to beat them, I want to be at 2,000 words of content, right? I want to be way better of a resource than they are. We have images. We have alt tags for those images, right? We're telling Google exactly what this content is all about. So of course the question is like, okay, you've done all those kind of things, right? Well, did it work? Right? That's the question. Is it actually effective? And the answer is yes, it works. Conference room audio visual systems. This is just one of the keywords that they're performing in Google for. They are ranked #1 organically. People have been coming to this page ever since we wrote the page in like June, and they've literally generated hundreds of thousands of dollars off of this particular set of keywords because it was valuable to them, right? So this is the kind of the opportunity that is at your disposal. And as you can see there's Neuralink down there in position #2, right? We went from showing up nowhere to being #1 because we followed just some of these best practices. Here's kind of a bunch of the other keywords that they're also performing, #1 or page 1 for a variety of different terms. And as you can see there's not a whole lot of traffic here, like 30 monthly searches, 20 monthly searches. Not a whole lot of search volume here necessarily, but it doesn't matter. If one of these comes and they purchase, that is a good amount of money because this product has a good amount of return, right? So whatever your money terms are, that's what we want to be able to target. So here's kind of an optimization checklist for you. As you're trying to create content, this is kind of a very watered down, very simplified process that you can actually go through your content and just kind of see if you're doing it. So as we're kind of talking about the different types of content that you can write. Now, obviously, we've talked about this, right? The Idaho Falls Assisted Living, the Pocatello Pest Control, Rexburg Family Doctor, Rigby Physical Therapy, Toledo DUI Attorney. Like, these are pretty self-explanatory, right? I mean, these are the types of services or products or whatever it is that you offer. But there's a lot more types of content that we can be creating. Some of the other types of content that we can be creating are things like FAQs, right? Frequently asked questions. How long can a mouse live without food? This is literally one that has generated, thousands of visits, monthly visits, for one of my pest control clients because they wrote a piece of content on this particular topic. Now, is that necessarily going to be generating a lot of revenue? Like, okay, they came to that page, they looked at that, and then they decided, yeah, they need pest control? Maybe, maybe not. How to file a divorce in Idaho, right? This one's pretty specific, right? This would be a great piece of content to be creating for a divorce attorney, right? That would be fantastic. How much does a website cost to create? If people have those questions, I'd love to have a chance to answer that. Well, it depends. That's the answer to that question. But I'd love to be able to show up in Google for those particular ones, have them be able to come to my website, and then have a chance to kind of hook them or be able to kind of lead them into that next phase of, okay, well, cool, this website, this company, this individual has been a good resource on this particular type of question that I had. Let's reach out to them. They've kind of established themselves potentially as the expert on this particular topic. I still have questions. Let's reach out, right? So our next exercise is going to be actually creating a list of what some of these frequently asked questions might be for your particular type of industry. So I'll go ahead and give that a couple minutes there. Sorry, Alan, I didn't take the timer here out. That's my bad. But I'll go ahead and let you guys have a couple minutes to kind of think about that. Please write down some of those FAQs that you might think of. Awesome. Well, I hope that was great. I hope you had a chance to kind of just think about, potentially some of those frequently asked questions that people might have if they're looking for your types of services. Is there anyone who would actually be willing to kind of share what some of those FAQs might be that they may have thought of for their business? Don't make me have to count on people. Or call on people, I should say, excuse me. Let's see. Angel, are you here with us, buddy? Would you be willing to share one of your FAQs that you may have thought of?
I don't think I came up with any good ones.
That's
Uh,
okay.
How much is personal training near me? Would that count?
I think
An
that's a great
FAQ?
question.
Oh, okay.
Hmm.
And then sports events, things like that. I don't know, I kind of had trouble doing this one.
No worries. So yeah,
Do you have any recommendations
that's a
for
good
personal
question.
training?
So Angel asked, and I'll open this up to the class. Like Angel is a personal trainer. Someone on the roof. Um, Angel is a personal trainer. Is that correct, Angel?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, class. What questions do you have about personal training that you think would be helpful to know? Maria?
Honestly, how much does a personal trainer charge?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was kind of
Oh, okay.
one of the things that he mentioned there.
I don't know if I
Geez.
should answer that or write it down.
Is there a
No.
long-term commitment involved with personal training?
Oh, okay.
What else? What questions do you guys have about? Let's see, Tanyan. I know you go to the gym. I know you get your butt kicked on the regular. Over there, Orange Theory.
I would say, what kind of equipment do you use, or how often do you recommend someone uses a personal trainer? Where are you located? Do you
Okay.
specialize in one certain thing or multiple things?
Susan, do you have
Thanks.
something to add there too?
Did you call on me, Ryan?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite hear what you said. Oh, now I forgot my question. How long does it take to see results after I begin?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, these are all really, really good questions. And what's cool is, one of the things that you can do is, obviously we'd love for these to be able to perform in Google, but you may not be able to, right? You may not be the #1 search result there in Google, and that's okay. Some of the things that Google takes into consideration, like even if people aren't coming directly to your website by finding these FAQ pages, it's great because you're answering a question on your website, and then you can have kind of a chance to, what I call is a contextual relevance network, right? So if you're answering all these questions about personal training, about fitness, about whatever it is, eventually Google is going to understand exactly what your website is about, right? The entirety of the website is clearly focused on personal training, right? So that's going to actually help your opportunity to be able to perform for terms like Idaho Falls personal trainer, because all throughout your website you have all this good quality content that's answering these questions about your services, right? So if you're able to create these kind of resources and things like that, then that's going to actually help Google understand even more thoroughly that Angel should be the #1 trainer here ranked in Google, right? So let's see, does anybody else have any FAQs that they thought of for their particular industry that they'd be willing to share? Jana, you got one?
Yeah. What is the best sport to get my kids in?
That's a great one.
What after school sports are in Idaho Falls?
Yes. Okay.
What adult sports are in Idaho Falls? And can judo be used as self-defense?
Okay. Yeah, these are fantastic ones. So everybody knows, Jana is Idaho Falls #1 judo trainer. Idaho's #1 judo trainer, and so she has the classes here at the Idaho Innovation Center here in Idaho Falls that she actually has people come and learn judo, right? So that's pretty awesome to be able to say, what sports are available, what after school programs are available and stuff like that here in Idaho Falls. I think that's a great one, right? Awesome. Well, we'll go ahead and we'll move on here. But the next one is the next type of content that you guys can be producing is resources, right? So these are generally significantly more hands-on. These are significantly more difficult to create. Or I don't know about difficult, but time intensive, right? So here's a few examples of ones that I have created for my clients, right? or for the companies I work for. The top one is the ultimate list of local link building ideas. So we had literally hundreds of ideas for people who are trying to learn about link building, which we'll talk about a little bit later. So if they are looking for local link building opportunities, if they own a small business and they were trying to land links, we created a fantastic resource to be able to do that. When I was with my last company where I created this, this was one that brought in just thousands of monthly visits, right? And then people came, they read about this, and then we became the expert on that particular topic, right? On local link building, Nifty Marketing was the go-to resource. Kind of since then, other companies have kind of come in and have kind of beat them out. They've created better resources, but there for the long time, that was gold, right? And if it was something that they continually invested time into improving, they could probably stay the #1 search result for that. This one was really cool. I did this one for a disability attorney, and it was like 50 experts. I can't remember how many we had. I think we probably actually had like 70 plus experts share how to teach children about disabilities. So this one was fantastic because this is what's called crowdsourced content. So I didn't have to write it. I literally reached out to therapists in the state of Utah, where this particular company was located, and asked them to share their top advice for how to teach people or how to teach children about other children that had disabilities, right? And it was awesome. The content that they submitted was fantastic and way better than I could have ever produced. And frankly, if an attorney had written a piece of content on how to teach children about disabilities, people would not care, because that's not necessarily a qualified expert on that particular topic. But because they were these child therapists, because they were these family therapists, they were a significantly more qualified individual to talk and teach about this particular topic. So we reached out, we asked people to send in kind of their content. They did so, and we compiled it into this enormous resource on this particular topic, right? So it was gold. Unfortunately, the company was sold, and the company who bought the law firm that this resource was taken care of, like, just rolled the website into something else. So it's gone, and it breaks my heart. Another one that we created was this was for an attorney that specialized in train accidents. Like, they help people who had been in train accidents across the entire nation. They were kind of like the expert for that. And so we created this resource on like United States train accident map. And we literally mapped out like where these train accidents were happening. We listed out kind of contributing factors. We had the different type of accidents, because there are kind of like train on train or motor vehicle against train. And we just created these really, really awesome resources on this particular type of topic. So here's just a handful of different examples. Others could include like things like we did for a pest control company. We did a resource we did like an infographic that kind of talked about like ways to help your pets be able to avoid fleas or be able to avoid other pest kind of infestation and different issues that might occur there. So these are the kind of pieces of content that you can be creating for people. So I think I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to open it up for a little bit more time here. I think you're going to have 2 minutes. What type of content, what type of resources can you be creating for your particular audience there? Let's see. Let's go ahead and open up the class here. Awesome. Well, has anyone thought this was way too short a time to be able to think about like great resources? But one of the things I'm going to recommend, like as you do and as you're like trying to think of this, is like think of your audience, right? So I talked about the pest control company, and we wanted to create a great resource. Well, one of the things we did was we identified the audience that we wanted to go after first: pet owners. Okay, well, perfect. If we want to go to over pet owners, what does pest control and what do pet owners care about, right? What can we do to be able to kind of bridge that gap, right? So if you think about who your audience is, then you can think about what they would want, and that can help you be able to create resources. I'll go ahead and open it up to whoever wants to share as far as, are there any great resources that you can think of creating that would be beneficial for your audience?
I have one, Ryan.
All right, what you got for me, buddy?
So as a realtor, you can put in things to do in like Idaho Falls or Eastern Idaho, top restaurants, local restaurants, write up school information as well, links to different school sites as well as the private schools. You can even do a thing on, different religions in there. Like here's not write up, but obviously just, hey, here's Christians, here's Methodists, here's Baptists, here's etc. location. Just make it relevant content to relocating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's fantastic. Oh, by the way, I gave Steve some time to introduce himself, but I forgot about Bryce because I know Bryce. But Bryce is here he's also a realtor here in the area, and super good guy. Do you want to introduce yourself there, Bryce?
Sure. Well, it's interesting. Tanya and I are in the same office and get along well together. But I'm a newer agent to the area. I moved from Twin Falls for my wife's job back in June. So I'm trying to recreate myself in the industry again in a new area. And so I've met Ryan and we've talked about some different things, but yeah, I mean, that's what I go on. I love helping people find things even outside of homes, whether it's cars or ammo or whatever it is. I'm always searching for stuff and just helping people, but I like meeting local businesses. Ryan and I met at the chamber doing things like that, and keeping it real in my local community. So I have grandeurs of one day running for mayor or something like that. We'll see if that ever happens.
Nice. Oh, I'd vote for you, Bryce, there. Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that. I think that's a really good one. Does anyone else have an idea of a resource that you can create that you think would be really beneficial for your particular type or your particular audience?
I think for mine, Ryan, and be like community service announcements, because we really don't have that for our market. Mm-hmm. And then events. At least those two right now.
Right. That's a good one. Yep, and I've seen that work really well before for different clients of mine. Both of those two things, community resources and then kind of like an event page, I've seen that be very effective. So really good. We'll go ahead and we'll kind of move on there. But if you guys have any questions, if you guys want to chat about what kind of resources you think might be advantageous for you to be creating, let's chat. Like, hit me up. Let's go have lunch. Let's do something. So let's go ahead and get back to the presentation there. All right, so I have this GIF here, trouble alert. So prepare to be saddened. Sometimes, like, even if you create like this incredible piece of content, right? The best landing page, the best content on Idaho Falls Realtor that you could possibly imagine, sometimes we still don't show up competitively. And we're going to be talking a little bit about why that is. Here's an example for a client, right? Letter Anchor Chart. This is a company that they produce really cool resources for teachers. So, man, this looks easy, right? Well, one of the things you have to keep in mind is like this tool does give you kind of like how difficult it will be to be on page 1. But even if you're on page 1, there's a big difference between being number 1 at the top of Google and being on the bottom of the first page. Like there's a big difference there, right? So with this particular client, they created this incredible resource on this particular thing, probably nearly 2,000 words of content, lots of images, great descriptions, really good content. But the issue is that like even if you have great content on a single page of your website, if this is a new website, Google doesn't necessarily consider your website very authoritative because you're new, because you're small, because you may not have a variety of different things that are part of Google's algorithm that we'll be talking about. So even if that is the case, it may not be enough. What this is a screenshot once again from my favorite tool, Ahrefs. And this kind of does a good job of trying to measure or quantify what authority might look like in Google's eyes. So these two things that you see here that I have highlighted, we have the authority of the whole website and the authority of that particular page. That UR, it stands for URL rating, and the DR stands for domain or your website rating, right? So these are the two metrics that we're trying to improve, and there's a variety of ways that we can go about doing that. But these, oh, by the way, these are on scales of 0 to 100, right? So this is a 3 out of 100, so not a very authoritative website. Especially when, so if I search this letter anchor chart, these are the top results there for Google. And so I have spots 2 through 6 shown here. The number 1 is just the image pack. But these results, like you can see that domain rating, that website rating there in that left column that I have highlighted, like they're up against some behemoths, right? 85, 97 out of 100, like man, and there are 3, right? So the fact they're in spot number 6 alone is pretty fantastic. But you can see that like there's a lot of work that needs to be done to be able to get them up higher. There's a number of ways that we can go about that. One of them is we continue to create awesome content across our entire website. The better the content across our entire website, the more likely we are to perform for pretty much everything, right? Everything kind of rises together is pretty often the case there. So we have a lot of opportunity, but one of the other things that we can do about it, kind of the next step, okay, we have this awesome resource and we have this awesome website. We need to get links to this particular website. Like a link is like, when you're looking at Wikipedia and it has kind of those words and they're blue, right? And if you click on them, they take you to this other page. That is a link, right? And what Google tries to decide is, they rely pretty heavily on links to determine if a website is a good resource. Because if a bunch of other websites are linking to this particular page, well, that must be a good resource on whatever that topic is, right? That's kind of the logic that Google takes into consideration when it comes to trying to determine what is a good resource. Are other websites linking to this one or not? And as you can see here, a lot of the competition here, they don't have a lot of links to these particular pages. So that's kind of the opportunity, is if my client can get more links to this particular page, then it might be able to climb up because it can be considered one of the best resources on this narrow or particular topic, right? So once again, kind of going back to that 3.2, out of 100, but this particular page is a 13 out of 100. So if we're able to give it a little bit more love, then we might be able to perform more competitively. So link signals. There's a variety of things that Google takes into consideration when it comes to links. Not all links are created equally, unlike people. So they take into consideration the quality of the link, right? So a link from, Huffington Post or Forbes or something like that is going to be a significantly higher quality link than momblog.com, right? Or, SusieLovesLiam.com, right? Whatever it is, right? So not all websites are created equally, not all links are created equally. They also take into consideration the diversity of the links that you have. They also take into consideration the amount or the overall volume of links. They take into consideration how quickly you add links. They take into consideration so many different things, even like what industry the other website linking to your website is in, right? That's particularly important as well. So for me, the best case scenario, if I want to perform for Idaho Falls web design, the best case scenario is that every other website that does Idaho Falls web design, so all my competitors, if they all link to my page, that would be the best case scenario. Now, the likelihood of that happening is extremely low, right? But we're going to be talking about links a little bit, right? So if we're going to be talking about this is kind of what it looks like. Here's your content and here's often links. This is not always the case, but in so many situations it is. If you have more links than your competitor, a lot of times you can do better. That's obviously an oversimplification because Google has this crazy algorithm with millions of points to it, right? But this is pretty common, right? And it's particularly an issue because sometimes you'll create this resource and then you'll look at the other resources that are on page one and you could say, well, my content is way better than this particular one. And if we are kind of just looking at it from this perspective, maybe that can help us understand why, even though we may have the best resource on that particular topic, we're still not number one in Google. So once again, here's all these different factors that Google takes into consideration: industry, quantity, quality, the rate at which you add them, all sorts of things like that. So if we're going to be talking about like what links can I be creating? Well, there's industry directories. So for my particular example, like there's a bunch of web design or marketing company directories that are out there. For example, there's a company called clutch.co. I can go up there and I can add my business listing up there that has my information. It has a link to my website. It has all this other content that's fantastic. It links to me. It provides an industry relevant link. Now, it might not be the most authoritative link, but it is industry related, and that's advantageous to me. Local business directories. So the Idaho Falls Chamber of Commerce, right? That's a fantastic one. That is a local link, so that's advantageous, and it's linking to your business. That's all great. General business directories, Yelp.com, Manta.com, Yellowpages.com, all these places that you can just like throw up your business information and they link to you. That's a link, right? That's good. Alumni directories. So if you graduated from a particular school and they have a directory, which a lot of them actually do, that could be a fantastic opportunity for you. And then business citations, and those are honestly pretty closely related to general business directories. Guest posting. So this strategy is one of my favorites. So let's say you know someone who owns a website, or you see a website that's out there, and you want to be able to land a link from their website to yours. Well, an easy way to be able to do that is if you can produce a piece of content that they can add to their blog that will link back to your page, right? So for a mom blog, if I'm trying to think of a good example here. For an injury attorney, some of the ways that we did this is we wrote about bicycle safety. We created an infographic and a blog post about this particular thing. We wrote this original write-up for this mom blog, and it linked back to the law firm's website. Gold, right? Industry-related blogs. If there's one that's on your particular industry, if there's one they're on judo or martial arts or different things like that, like maybe we can produce a piece of content that talks about 10 ways that enrolling your children into martial arts can help them perform better in school. And you can create a piece of content that's on that particular topic. The webmaster on that end is often going to be grateful because they don't have to produce the blog, right? They don't have to produce that content. You literally send it over to them. They add it to their website. They have gold content for their website. It links to you. Everybody wins, right? It's a fantastic way to go about it. Local blogs. There's like I Heart Salt Lake, right? For one of my clients that was in the Salt Lake area there, this is like a local interest blog that talks about like all the cool things to do in Salt Lake. We wrote up kind of a blog post about the things that this particular company's employees love to do in Salt Lake, provided that for them. They added it to their website, gave them a link, right? That is all super, super valuable. And all these things can be good because, a mom blog, maybe it's not the most authoritative, but hopefully we can land those kind of links in a meaningful quantity. Industry related, well, it's relevant, right? It's talking about your industry and it's linking to yours. Local blogs, if there's an Idaho Falls link, that's gold for me to have, right? Those are all the things that Google takes into consideration, right? Resource creation. Once again, kind of going back to, what kind of resources can we create? Like this is kind of the other side of that, right? We can create these ultimate guides. We can create these ebooks. We can create these custom maps, these crowdsourced content. We can do all these types of different things to be able to attract and gain links. So those are all super, super advantageous things for us. So if we're creating these types of content, like sometimes they'll just get found and people will naturally link to us, but there is an opportunity for promotion. Hey, I saw that you were writing on this particular topic. This is a resource that we wrote. on this particular subject that I think would be really, really good for your readers. Would you mind linking to it on this particular blog post that you've already written? That can be a great way to be able to land links, just kind of time intensive. There's also a lot of opportunity if you are literally just giving something away. Scholarship is one of the easiest ways to be able to do it. So for a lot of my clients, we've done this. You offer $1,000 scholarship, right? You provide a place on your website for students to be able to come and apply for that scholarship. And then you let, Bonneville High School know, hey, we have this scholarship. If your students are interested, here's the link they can go and they can apply, right? That's gold. In particular because .edu websites are considered pretty authoritative. So like uga.edu, auburn.edu, all these websites are pretty authoritative. So landing a link from their website to yours is a great way to do it, right? Even if it's just, hey, here's an opportunity for them to be able to apply for this scholarship. It's $2,000 or something like that. So that's a great way to be able to do it. Sponsorship. If you're sponsoring the local Little League, a lot of times they'll have like a sponsored directory, or they'll have a sponsor page. If you can be able to link from that sponsor page to yours, that's a great way to do it. Internship, really comparable to scholarship. You offer an opportunity for people to be able to come and work at your company, and you reach out to all these different high schools and colleges and universities, and that can be a really, really good way to be able to do it. User-generated links, right? So if you create like a press release, you can get thousands of links. There's places that you can go to literally upload a press release, and it is sent out and just litters the internet with your different information, right? It's not the most high quality, but it is a good way to land links in a large quantity. Also, image and infographic posting, like let's say you create an image or an infographic on a particular topic. Well, there's flickr.com, there's imgur.com, there's Pinterest, there's all these different places that you can literally go, upload that image, and link back to your website. It's just that easy. And once again, it may not be the most quality link. In fact, it's not, but it is a good way to be able to land links in a meaningful quantity. So a bunch of different ideas around that. If you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. So Google My Business, this is probably the most important aspect here, especially for local service area businesses. There's so many different factors that Google takes into consideration here. We talked about some of the cool things that Google My Business has for you last time. And so, what is it? It's kind of like Yelp, right? But it's for Google. It's Google's platform that they have all this good information for you. Post images, give directions, all that good stuff up there. So you add up your info, that's all important. You can respond to reviews. You can gain reviews from your clients. This is just a great way to be found and be chosen. All sorts of good stuff, right? We kind of talked about that a little bit last week. But I really recommend that you hop into Google My Business and just see what is there and what's at your fingertips, because chances are you're not utilizing it the way you could be. So ranking factors, well, obviously it has to be created. It has to be claimed, right? Pretty self-explanatory, right? If you want to be found in Google, and your Google My Business listing has to exist. But here's an example of like a company that literally, simply because they created a Google listing, they get around 1,000 views a month. So 1,000 people are finding them, and several of them are calling simply because it just exists. They just have a Google listing. And this one's kind of interesting. And we'll talk about why this is. So here's a screenshot that was taken, I think this is last fall for one of my clients. They're located right near Costco. So that kind of center point there, that's Costco area, right? That's where they're located. They're a physical therapist here in town. Now what's interesting is like, this is kind of where you perform in the Google Maps section. So let's see here, let me go back to the Google Maps section. By these like numbers, they are referring to this particular section, right? So 1, 2, 3, for this particular query, it's like cardamom is number 1, Tandoori ovens number 2, Pechangas is randomly number 3, right? But it keeps going significantly further than that, right? There's like 40 places that they could potentially be. So when you see these numbers here, going back to this slide, like number 1 is that top spot in Google in the local map section. Spot number 7, spot 3, you can kind of see kind of goes down from there, right? I hope that makes sense. So what's interesting here is, yeah, number 1, right outside their front door, right? So if someone searches from Costco and they're looking for a physical therapist, like they're probably going to find Pick PT because it's right freaking next door, right? So that's gold for them. But as you can kind of see, like as they get more into town, as they get further away from their location and get closer to some of their competition, it goes down quite significantly, pretty dramatically, right? So what's kind of interesting is like when people talk to me, well, where should I put my office? Where should I be operating from? Well, where are people searching from? I'd also recommend that you place your Google listing away from your competition. So I talked to Bryce and Tanyan about this. Like if you're operating out of an office, that's great. But if you have 14 other realtors that have a Google My Business listing in the same building as you, that's going to be incredibly difficult to compete. So put that listing elsewhere. If you can do it from your home, do it. You know, wherever people are searching from and you're away from your competition, that's where you should probably put it. What's kind of cool is if you kind of see this little top row here, there you go, there you go. Like these locations here, like he's number one over here because he's kind of boxing out the rest of his competition. He's over located there on the north side of town. Almost all the competition is over off of Sunnyside. So all that kind of portion north of town into Yukon, into Iona, he does extremely well at because there's no competitors on that side of his business. So if you have any questions about if you're in the process of trying to decide where your business should be located, let's have a conversation and I will literally help you find a place that's going to be advantageous as far as Google goes. So going back to this example, Harmony Massage, they have one review. They don't even have a website, but they're getting 1,000 searches a month. You know, how is that happening? Well, look at the map. You know, they're the only one that's over there, right? They're the only listing that's kind of on that like far west side of town. So as a result, like they're just in a good spot. It was on accident that this happened for them, and it's awesome that it did. Another strategy, you know, here's Pick Me Up, right? I mean, they have all these different locations, and obviously that's great because it's convenient, right? They can service people in a variety of different locations, but also if people are looking up soda shop near me, well, they have 3 locations that they could potentially be found in. That's awesome for them, right? So I've seen law firms do this, that even in a location as small as Idaho Falls will have like multiple offices in there, and that's just because it does increase the likelihood that they'll be found and they'll be chosen. So this is just kind of the growth, right? When I first started working with PickPT, the one over there on the left is an example of how far or how well he performed. So you can see like he was number 1 at his location, but before they even got to like Northgate Mile, he was in spot 20. Like now he's performing significantly better in different areas there, and that's just kind of from doing some good work. So how does that happen? Like you have to have the right business category. So for this particular one, this is my mother-in-law. She's a counselor in St. George. Counselor was the number 1 thing that she wanted to be, right? But if she needed to be more specific, then you know, family counselor would be fantastic. Marriage counselor would be fantastic if that's what she did, right? So if you're a realtor, your primary business category needs to be realtor, not local business. I think that makes sense, right? Or an injury attorney or a divorce attorney rather than just attorney. So you need to make sure that you have that right one selected, whatever that is. Also, here's just an example, right? Estate planning here. So I was looking at estate planners in St. George. This is when I was down there just this last year. And all of the top results were ones that had that as their primary business category. You can see no one had attorney listed as their primary business category and was popping up. Also, they had keywords in their business title, like those top results. They literally have like wealth and estate law group, Connor Law Estate Planning. Like they had those keywords in their particular name. So if I wanted to be number 1 for Idaho Falls Web Design, well, I should probably name my business Idaho Falls Web Design, and that's going to give me a significant competitive advantage over other people. So you can get really tricky and really cute with the name, with the way that you name your business. But like if you're going to be, if you're a realtor, then you should probably have that. Like, you know, Tanyan Wall, Idaho Falls Realtor, right? Or the Realty Chick or something like that, right? Bryce Belknap, Idaho Falls Realtor, right? All these things would be helpful if you're trying to show up for those particular keywords. Google puts a lot of weight here, more than I wish they would. but this is really, really helpful. Reviews, this is obviously fantastic. Google does take into consideration the amount of reviews that you have. the amount of reviews you have on Yelp, the amount of reviews that you have on Facebook, what the text is of those reviews. All these different things are all taken into consideration when they're trying to determine where you're going to rank in Google. Listing interaction. So how many people are actually like clicking in and viewing your images? How many people are reading your reviews? These are all things that if you have a really active listing and you have people who are actively looking through your content, you are probably going to be able to perform more competitively in Google than others. So that's pretty important. Listings and citations, kind of moving on to kind of the next section. So Google My Business, cool. We have that one doing awesome. We have our primary business category set. We have images up there. It's completed. It's becoming older. It's verified. All this kind of stuff. Well, then there's all these other listings that are important, and these are kind of the level right below Google My Business, and these include Factual, Infogroup, Facebook, Yelp, Bing, Apple Maps. These are all websites that you can go up. These are these general business directories that you can go and you can add your information there. What's important is the name, the address, and the phone number. Google does take into consideration how many listings of this nature you have, but there is kind of a level of citations that are of higher quality, and those are the ones that I listed before. But there are millions of these out there that you could potentially claim, but I don't think it's necessarily a great investment of your time or your resources to be like, I'm going to get hundreds of thousands of business citations, because they just aren't that authoritative. They don't really pass that much value onto your website. So you could do this literally for days if you wanted to, but I don't necessarily recommend that. I recommend getting that top tier of citations. So what are those top tier citations? Well, I provided a link here, bit.ly/Vulpine-citations. If you go to this URL, it will take you to a place that literally has them all listed out here. And I'll go back to it in just a minute. But here's kind of the top 50 citations for the United States that you probably need to take care of. And I'd say the top 20 are the ones I really would recommend. Anything above and beyond that is just kind of gravy on top. But this is the link, bit.ly/Vulpine-citations. I'll add this in the Facebook group as well. But go on there, have your name, you can add your address, you can have your website, you can have your phone number, and then you can probably add a bunch of different information as far as images and whatever you want to there. So if you want to, let's see, where can I go? This is a question from Tanyan. Where can I go and see these insights for who is looking, what they are searching for, etc.? Good question. So this one, there are tools, there are things that are called like Google Search Insights, Google Search Trends. So you can literally be able to kind of see like how many people are searching realtor within Idaho Falls, right? And it will provide some data there. I'll try to provide that in the Facebook group for you there, Tanyan, so that you can be looking. Above and beyond that, though, if you are interested in getting a bit of an audit in your local market, trying to figure out like what people are searching within Idaho Falls or whatever your market is, feel free to reach out to me, and I will kind of do some of that auditing and that research for you, and I'll send that over to you. So if you have questions about that, feel free to reach out to me. Here's a place that you can go to be able to kind of see like how many different citations and listings that you might have out there. I'll go ahead and provide this in the Facebook group as well, but this is literally a place that you can go to and type in your name, your address, and your phone number, and this tool will go out and will bring all of the information there for you. It's not a perfect tool, but it is free, so that's fantastic. So then you can kind of understand, okay, well, I actually have a bunch of these listings I didn't even know I had. Okay, sounds good. Well, I know kind of what listings I need to start working on next. Reviews, I mean, we talked about that a little bit, but this is kind of an important aspect. You need to be sure to be doing your best to be gaining reviews. Google takes those into consideration very heavily, but above and beyond that, like if you're trying to perform in Google and you want to be chosen, like if you have 80 reviews and your closest competitor has 20, you're the obvious choice, right? It's just a way to differentiate yourself between your competition. If you have more reviews, fantastic. People don't search much differently for a blender on Amazon than they do a divorce attorney, sadly. The process is nearly identical, right? So be that number one blender, guys. And kind of moving on into the paid ads section here. I'm not going to spend a lot of time in here, but I want you guys to be kind of familiar with what's at your disposal. If you want more information on this, you're going to have to reach out to me individually, and I'll kind of talk about what's at your disposal here. But if you go to ads.google.com, you can literally go and you can set up your Google ad account. I'm also happy to kind of help walk you through that process. But you can go there and you can kind of determine what your number one objective is. If it's sales, web traffic, leads, brand awareness, whatever. And there's a variety of different campaign types that are there available for you. Search is the one that we kind of talked about today as far as physical therapy, and it has that ad right there at the top. That's a search campaign. And it's so awesome because you really can be, if there's a particular set of keywords that you're trying to show up for, it's gold. You can literally say, I want to show up in Google for personal injury attorney, for web design attorney if it's searched within Idaho Falls, or assisted living if someone looks for it in Blackfoot, right? Or if someone searches for Blackfoot assisted living, regardless of wherever they live, I want to show up for that particular search. So there's so many things that you can do there, and here's all the different campaign types that are at your disposal here. So video, we're talking about YouTube. Shopping, I mean, you know shopping ads. Let me go to those. All right, display, right? Here's a website. That's how this is a display ad campaign. So if you want your ads on the side here, perfect. You can get them there. It's all done through Google Ads. If you want to be here, boom, we can get you there. If you want to be here in YouTube, right? This is all done through Google Ads there. This is kind of all the same platform. A smart campaign is a good way to kind of have a bit of a hybrid approach. Google has created this platform that makes it a little bit easier, but you do have a lot less control over it. But it could be a great way to be able to start. You can kind of say what your keyword themes are, and then Google can kind of help you create ads and show them in whatever geographic area that you want to. It's kind of like a hybrid between a search and a display campaign. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to open it up. Let's go back to the Zoom. Let's kind of see our audience here. We've talked a lot. There's a lot of material that we've covered here. So what questions do people have? If there are any at this point. If there aren't any at this point, then fantastic. There's also always the Facebook group. If you haven't added it, please go find it. Frosty sent out the link, I believe, last week. So if you need access there, I'd love to answer whatever questions you have. Let's see, Jana, do you have a question?
Well, it might not be that interesting for the group because only you might understand what I'm asking, but are you saying that, like, if Judo Fit is a part of my Blue Line Judo page, and I'm marketing domestically, and I have people all over the country looking at Judo Fit, does that mean it's going to drive up my local listing for after school program for kids, or am I not understanding that right?
That's a good question. So what will really help you, if you're trying to perform for, martial arts in Idaho Falls or something like that, right? Getting website visits and stuff like that via ads, be it through Facebook or any of this other thing, won't necessarily help you perform better in Google right here. But if you do have like links that you're getting from other websites and stuff like that, they're linking to yours, then that would, if there's somehow like you're getting some press attention or something like that for this really cool product that you're offering, and they link to your website, that would help you. Does that kind of answer the question there?
Yeah, it does, because I was almost starting to wonder if I should get a separate website for Judo Fit, but then I was like, wait, maybe they're connected and it would help it, but so it sounds like no. Yeah,
it wouldn't. It would if any of those pages are landing links, right? Okay. And then everything would kind of rise together there. I think that we're out of time here. So if you guys do have any questions, feel free to reach out to me individually. Feel free to pop them in the Facebook group. Feel free to do whatever, and I'll do my best to answer them. My preferred way would be in the Facebook group, simply because if you have a question, chances are some of the other people in the class do as well, and I'd love to be able to kind of answer kind of the question that maybe other people don't even know that they have, right? So other than that, you guys have a wonderful day. Thank you guys so much for being here. We'd like to thank the ANDEX team for being awesome. Also the Idaho Innovation Center, the Small Business Development Center, and the Greater Idaho Falls Chamber of Commerce for advertising and making all of this possible. So thank you guys so much, and you guys have a wonderful day.
Thanks, Ryan.
You got it.